Hi, I'm Shanna.
And I'm Amy, and welcome to Represent and Compare Decimals for 4th grade Math Dive in 5 video. So go ahead and pause the video and complete this task either on your own or with a team or partner. As you complete the task, think about what would students need to be successful at each task, and also think about what progression would you take to order these tasks. With the progression with Bess, starting off in 3rd grade, students are representing fractions, including fractions greater than 1. They're also plotting, ordering, comparing whole numbers up to that 10,000s place value.
In 4th grade, we're plotting, ordering, and comparing again, but now up to 1,000,000. We're also expressing how the value of a digit changes when moved to the right or left one place. We're also using decimal notation to represent fractions and mixed numbers and fractions greater than 1. We're plotting, ordering, and comparing decimals to the hundredths and identifying if a number is 1/10 more or less or 1/100th more or less than a given number.
Moving into 5th grade, we're now plotting, ordering, comparing decimals up to that thousands place value. We're rounding multi-digit numbers with decimals and also composing and decomposing numbers with decimals. In this unit specifically, we are using that decimal notation with denominators of 10 or 100, including mixed numbers, fractions greater than 1, plotting, ordering, comparing decimals to the hundreds place, and identifying if that number is 1/10 more or less and 1/100th more or less than a given number. So in this unit, representing compare decimals, we want to start off with those concrete models, those base 10 blocks, those place value discs, and then we can move into those place value mats to represent their decimals. And we are also comparing, so we're using those number lines with those comparison symbols, greater than, less than, and equal to.
I feel like we've seen all these representations and tools before.
We have, so we want students to make that connection between the whole numbers and the decimals. So we can represent decimals using base 10 blocks and also using a place value mat. Students need to change the way that they were thinking about base 10 blocks previously, using the flat to represent a 1. And then we can ask them, okay, if the flat represents a 1, what do the rods represent? What do the units represent?
So we definitely are going to have to guide and support students with that, right?
Yes.
Because they previously thought a flat was 100, so now we're changing the value of a flat to a 1.
Yes, exactly. Another way when students are starting out with decimals is to represent decimals on a number line. So students can make the connection between fractions and decimals with the denominators of tens or hundreds on that number line. Students will be given scaled number lines so they can plot where the decimal or fraction equivalent will go on that number line.
And I could see that some students might still need support figuring out what the range is going to be for their number line and how to figure out where to place their specific decimal.
And that's why that scaled number line will be extremely helpful in order to help them figure out where to plot that decimal or fraction.
Great idea.
So when we're comparing and ordering decimals, we can use those base 10 blocks again. Students can represent each number to determine if the decimal is greater or less than the other decimal, and we can arrange those in ascending or descending order.
So I see in that place value mat that in the ones place, the digits are the same, but in the tens place, they are different. So we're kind of doing that same thing that we did with place value of whole numbers, where we're starting with the greatest place and moving along to see which one's greater or less.
Exactly. That place value mat can be really important to help organize the place values of each of the numbers. So when comparing and ordering decimals, we can also use place value discs. We can model the decimal using the place value disc, and just like with base 10 blocks, we can compare and order them in ascending or descending order.
And I think this is so big too, especially having them organize them by the different place values and then extend it to write those comparison statements. Or you can see that ordering in ascending order, I have symbols to connect each of those numbers. Those place value disc models are really going to help support students with that connection.
Yes, I completely agree. The students can also compare and order decimals using number lines. So students may need support with giving those scaled number lines, so we can give them the endpoints, we can give them the midpoints, and so then they can plot and order and compare those numbers on the number lines.
I think it's so big that initially we just start by representing numbers or decimals on the number line so that they get that familiarity with figuring out the range, the midpoint, and how to figure out where that decimal goes. And now I'm going to use that understanding to help me compare and order.
Yeah, so the scaled number lines will be really helpful when plotting those, and then if needed, they can use the open number lines as well.
Love it.
So as we're going through this unit, we want to remember the CRA model. The concrete, which would be your place value discs, your base 10 blocks. The representational, which would be your number lines and also drawing out those place value discs. And also the abstract, showing your comparison and ordering statements using your greater than, less than, or equal to symbols.
And I think the graphic on here is so big, having those bridges, because initially we're starting with that concrete to representational to abstract, but because it's a bridge, I can go back and use those strategies that I've done before to help strengthen my understanding.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for joining us for the Math Dive in 5 video, Compare and Represent Decimals for 4th grade.
Hope to see you soon.
Bye.